Welcome to Live True Story podcast with John Davis and Tyler Foley, ranked top 2 Podmatch guests, and they are both stuntmen.
Hi everyone, I'm Lori Ann. I am that gal from Milton, Ontario, Canada, and I'm with.
I am that guy. I am Roy Miller from Dallas, Texas. We'd like to welcome you to our Live True Story podcast. Today we have what we call a dueling podcast. We have with us John Davis and Tyler Foley, who are the top 2 guests on Podmatch, as well as they're both stuntmen. And we want to find out the difference in the stunts they do. John, you're more of an action stuntman, would you say?
I think the difference is I think all stuntmen do action, and I think that some stuntmen are more geared towards stunts. I know a lot of people who specifically only do fire, and there's specifically who only do falls. But I am a choreographer and also a stuntman, so I do a little bit of all of it.
Okay.
If that answers
Tyler,
your question.
where do you fit in?
Well, I'm just a really pretty guy who acts a lot and occasionally does stunts. And I think what John was alluding to is he does live stunt work. So he's doing it repeatedly over and over and over again, where for what I was doing with film, I would rehearse a stunt for weeks, if not months, do it once, get it in the can, and then walk away from that and never do it again. So I don't have to repeat my work. And I, as an actor who does stunts versus a stuntman who occasionally acts, I'm definitely not running it as much as I often do. I know some really good stunt professionals who dedicate their lives to it and are in the gym 7 days a week training to do stunts. And what I do is show up and train with them occasionally so that I don't make them look bad.
And can I tag on to that? So to tie it together, in the stunt industry, we would call Tyler a special ability actor, someone who has stunt ability, who can do amazing things, right? What I am is a guy who does not get in front of the camera as much, except for to be, henchman number 3, right? Or, one of those sort of scenarios. And I am the guy who will take a special ability actor and train them in a certain skill. So my expertise is Elizabethan swordplay, nunchucks, quarterstaff, quick draw, fancy knife work. I do all that kind of thing. And my job would be to train a special ability actor to do those things for camera.
Yeah.
How hard is it to train someone to do quick draws?
Quick
Depends
draws
on their
actually
skill.
Yeah, right. Go ahead, Tyler. Go ahead.
Well, no, because I want your opinion on this, because I know my side of the story. I love firearms and I'm no good at it, right? And
Really?
Especially where I'm located, we film a lot of Westerns, a lot. Legends of the Fall was here. Tombstone, like there was we did or not Tombstone, Unforgiven. A lot of really good Westerns have been filmed in the Alberta foothills. And so, I mean, we get to work with horses all the time. It's actually how I got into stunts, was being a horse wrangler. It was when my first introduction into stunt work happened. And we do all the gun work, and I'd see guys like John who would be trained to come and show us how to, shoot from the hip, or how to, do the quick draw here and do the really fun, fancy gunplay. And then they give you the prop, and I go, ah. and John does this look. And then but the director's chosen me because I'm the one who looks like what they need, and I have nothing but sympathy and respect to John, because it's a really hard skill, especially when you have a short amount of time to teach somebody who isn't used to handling that prop, right, John?
Right. No, absolutely. And it all depends on the actor themselves, because I've met a lot of actors who are not willing to say, I don't know. And I know a lot of actors who have literally said on their resume that they did know. Right. And I will tell you, those actors who showed up and didn't know never worked with that film crew or that production company again, because your resume has to be really precise. Now, I find that when you're teaching someone something like gun spinning or any fight skill at all, that it really depends on the teacher being extremely good at simple communications. For instance, spinning a gun is not spinning a gun. It's making a small gesture back and forth. That's all it is. And it's a matter of throwing a momentum in one direction and making a small gesture. So you get them focused on the small gesture, you start to spin. Once you get the spin, once they get used to the spin itself, then they've now had a subconscious shift where they believe they can. And then it makes the entire learning process a lot easier. Once they believe they can, you can get them to do anything.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because I think it's Michael Biehn who played in Tombstone is Johnny Ringo. Was that anyway? He was.
Oh yeah. Michael Biehn. Yeah.
In the bar, he was spinning the gun with Val against Val Kilmer, and I saw an interview people did with him. And they asked him about that, and he said, well, put it this way, I was walking around with a pistol for a long time. Right. He said it looked good on camera. He said, but I spent months being able to do that for that little 2-minute little deal.
Oh, it's a 30-second clip made better by the fact that Val Kilmer then mocks him with the little shot glass. And that's what makes that scene, because, and if you watch it, they do a couple of cuts in that so that he can get some of the, like he's doing the upper motions like this really quick. Right. But then when he puts it back into his holster, there's actually a camera cut. So this was a motion, but then into the holster is a second motion, but it's so quick that your eye doesn't have time to notice it. And then they cut to Val Kilmer doing that to kind of break it. So your mind gets distracted. And you're like, he did a really good job. That's funny. And you move on to the scene. But yeah, no, he did an incredible job. Everybody that worked on that show, actually, if you watch any of the behind the scenes stuff with it, the amount of work that went into it, it was a real passion project, particularly for Kurt Russell, who put it together.
Yeah. And actually Kurt Russell in that movie, he actually kind of ghost directed that thing and promised the guy who he let be director that he would not say anything until he passed away. And now he's passed away. Now it's all coming out that that's what actually happened. But as far as that Michael Biehn gun thing he was doing, the hardest thing he did in all of that motion was fanning sideways when you're spinning sideways, because what's happening is you're fighting direction this way and this way at the same time. And so it's really about learning how to keep that on your finger and not sliding off and going away from you. But everything else is all towards the body and out away from the body. That's actually much simpler to do. But I was impressed when I saw him do it sideways. I can do that all day long, but not every actor can.
I can't.
That wasn't bragging. That was just facts.
Yeah.
Did you work with him, John?
No, I did not work on that film at all. I would have loved. That's one of my favorite movies. My favorite scene in that is the scene where with Billy Bob Thornton in the bar when Kurt Russell walks in. It gives him the bitch slap.
Yeah. He's gonna stand there and bleed.
Yeah, he's gonna stand there and bleed. That's the greatest line in history.
That's the best line. That's my favorite line.
I watched that. I watched that scene on YouTube over and over again. If it comes on my feed, I can't. I have to watch it. It's just the best.
Yeah, I agree. So what's the hardest stunt you've ever done, Tyler?
I had to do a 60-foot high fall, and at that point you're still going into cardboard boxes. So a lot of people think that when you're doing these high falls, that you have these big, massive air bags that you fall into. And what they don't understand is those airbags are usually about 2 stories tall. So if you're doing a high fall, you have to have enough clearance to actually get to that bag. So those bags are actually reserved for really, really higher falls. And for this one scene, again, being pushed out of a window, I had to go into layers of boxes. Now I'm lucky. One of the reasons why I got to do as many stunts as I did is high falls anyways, is that I'm 5'7" and 135 pounds. So if you get me to double somebody who is naturally like 5'9", 5'10", or even 6 feet tall, I look like I'm falling longer because it's a scale issue, right? It's not a big thing, but if you get me and you push me out of the window, I look like I fall a longer distance just because of scale. And this one particular stunt, we rehearsed it a whole bunch. I was in the gym, I was working on the trampoline. So what you do is you jump out and you do the big, like this, right? You get a lot of flare going. And right at the last minute, you kind of tuck your shoulder like this and you do a full roll. And then you want to spread and get as wide as you can because you want to hit as many boxes as you can because it slows your momentum. And it's all great, and I've done that a couple of dozen times. I love doing the box falls. It's actually really fun. I prefer it over the airbags too, because when you hit an airbag, it actually hurts. Like, it slows your momentum, but there's a that hits, like you hit it where the boxes collapse. It's a real organic thing. It's really hard to explain until you've actually done it. But in this one, it was the highest one that I'd done, and your head starts to play tricks with you. Like 30 feet into boxes, 20 feet into boxes, whatever, right? But at 60 feet, I remember distinctly thinking, if this goes wrong, I'm not going to die, but I'm probably never going to walk again. It's a horrible mental state for you to be in. And I knew better than to do it. And all the training that I've had is you don't focus in, you focus on, you view the fall, picture the tuck, you find your timing, embrace it. But I was just there. And so it was only supposed to be and that's the other thing, it takes forever to set up those boxes. So you usually get one take, because if you screw it up, you have to disassemble the whole thing, take out all the broken ones, put them back in, replace the ones that are broken. And it takes it doesn't take days, but it takes a couple of hours to do the thing.
And if you have to do it multiple times, that team, that crew get really annoyed pretty quickly.
They get mad at you. So you wanted to do it in one take. Well, I get up there and, camera's rolling, A camera mark, B camera mark, we're at speed, get ready to go, action. And I kind of go forward. And what you're supposed to do is you lean like this and you allow gravity to take the momentum. And I was like, yeah, let gravity, no, I'm going to jump. And I felt and all it was just this little flick with my foot. Instead of letting gravity take it, I did this with my foot, and it pushed my momentum forward, but now my body is upright. And because my body is upright, it actually takes a lot to get you to invert over. Like, it's a big move. And so I remember doing this, and I was like, well, at least flare. It'll look good, right? So I'm still here, and the ground's coming up at me, and my feet are pointed down, which I know is not supposed to be the thing. And I know I'm supposed to tuck, but I don't think I can tuck now. And so in my head, I have like a briefest of a half a second, and I'm like, get wide, get wide, get wide. And so I got wide, and I spread my legs like a goalie going into a butterfly, which is an easy thing for me to do because I've been goaltending since I was 10 years old. So I kind of took a goaltender's butterfly, and I spread out and boom, slammed in between the corner of two boxes, which then came up into a very sensitive area of my body that was not meant to hit a box. And it hurt a lot. I took a bit to like kind of catch the wind, but luckily I'm small and we had, I think that was a 6-layer box stack. It might've been 7.
It would have been higher if it was 6 stories.
Yeah, we had a weird camera thing going. And I remember that was part of my fear, John, was that I remember thinking that I should have had about 10 layers,
right?
10 or 12. And I only had it might've been 7 or 8, whatever it was. I wasn't entirely comfortable with it, and I hadn't spoken up about it. So that was bad on my part. Anyway, I drove through, but I only punched through about 4 layers. And even though I had gone in wrong, because I'm, again, tiny, and we do engineer a safety margin into it, and boom, I smacked in, and I'm like, here, because I remember my head was still above the boxes, right? And I was like this. And everybody's like, oh, and the stunt coordinator rushed over to me, and his name's John as well. And he was coming through, and he's like, Tyler, you okay? I'm like, I'm good. I had my thumbs up. I'm doing this. I'm trying to let everybody know, good. And they're pulling me out of the boxes. And the first thing out of my mouth was, how did it look? Because I don't want to do it again. How did it look? And they checked the daily, and they did the replay, and it was fine. They were like, we could do one for safety if you want, but apparently they liked that I stayed upright, because normally we're doing this big flail this way, but it looked different. Right going this way. And so they used the take, and it worked really good. And now every time I see the footage from Die Hard when they drop Alan Rickman, I laugh because now I sympathize with Alan Rickman, because in that scenario, they told Rickman that they were going to drop him on the count of 3. And then the stunt coordinator told the aide to pull it on 1. So he goes 1 and they pulls, and Rickman goes, "This is what's supposed to happen." And he has a look of terror on his face. Yeah, same thing happened to me. I'm like, that was a real performance. That was real, because I shouldn't have done it that way. But that was, to this day, the one I remember.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about that stunt in general, because it's really fascinating. And some of the things you're saying is, when you do like a 3-story high fall, your timing is interesting, because it's you're out, you're done, right? When you're doing a 6-story high fall, you have air time, and that air time that you have, your brain has to kick in and really think about when to make the arm shift. Right. Yeah. And if you're not making that arm shift at the right time, you're going to land wrong, or you're going to hit wrong. And sometimes on the way down of a fall at that height, what can happen is you can get air the wrong way, which will push you off into different angles, which is what he's talking about. Got his feet down instead of being flat. Right. And so because of that situation in a fall of that height, if you can become a real good expert at 3 stories. When you get up to 6 stories, you're now looking at a very technical fall, because of the fact that it's now I have to manage my time on the way down. So it's a very different animal. Very different animal.
So when you're falling, of course you can see we'll say the ground coming at you, but then again, do you think, man, I'm up here forever? Am I ever going to hit?
Well, yeah, no, you have those moments. It definitely slows down your time.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's this, if I could explain it from like a film term, like you go from slow-mo to super fast. Like this, when you first get here, everything slows down. You hear the pulse in your ear. The time just kind of, and then you're in this nice sense of free fall, and everything is slow. But then about half a second before you hit, everything is like this. Like it's now, like you're right. slow, bam. And what John is saying is absolutely true. It's most of the training that I did prior to doing the stunt was jumping into a foam pit. And we started raising the height higher and higher and higher, so that I could have a good sense of when I got here, at what timing, when you get to this point, when you have to do your roll. And that was the hardest part. I probably spent 3 or 4 weeks starting on a trampoline, and then jumping into the foam pit, and then getting higher and higher and higher into the foam pit until we couldn't do the foam pit anymore. We did do a couple of rehearsals from a lower height into the boxes, but as John said, it's a different beast. So it wasn't something we wanted to test how many layers I needed, but we also didn't want to wreck through all those boxes, because it takes forever to set up, and B, it was a muscle memory thing that I didn't want to get too heavily into, because you don't want to twist too early, and you want to see your target the whole way down. You want to know where you're going. So if you roll too early, you're hitting blind, and that is the absolute worst thing that you can do in a stunt, is be hitting blind.
Absolutely. The other thing is that Tyler said, which I love this when I hear somebody say this, is that he hit the pad and the first thing he did was his thumbs went up. As somebody who's crew on a stunt like that, your job is to make sure that actor survives and is healthy and not hurt. And their actors and stuntmen are trained that when they hit the pad, they put their thumbs up as fast as they can, so that the team knows they're okay, right? And I cannot tell you how many times actors, because of that adrenaline and that hit of that speed that he was just talking about, forget to do the thumbs up. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen injuries happen, people rushing to get to the person who didn't put their thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yeah, they run in and step on the wrong person, or the wrong part of their body or something,
Yeah, and I echo that too, John, as somebody who's been a crew on it. And that's the thing about stunts. And I think a lot of people see the danger aspect of it, or the fun of it. Like it looks cool, right? There's a cool factor to it, but they don't understand the amount of prep work, the amount of science that goes into it, and the appreciation for the real danger. Like when we're, when John's playing with, even though they're prop or stunt firearms, they are still usually real. At one point were real weapons. Even if we're dulling down a blade of a sword, it's still a big, large chunk of metal that we're swinging around. When I'm jumping off of a building, John was right. Half a millimeter makes a difference when you're pushing momentum and trajectory. Now we over-engineer the landing pad, so I have some leeway, but not enough momentum or too much momentum can push me into a very dangerous area. And I've been that crew where something has gone wrong and we didn't know how wrong it went. And this is the greatest gift you can ever give to a stunt coordinator and the crew, because at least now we know, hey, things are okay. And I've been guilty of it. And on smaller stunts, right, where you do a thing. I remember doing a ratchet pull in iRobot, super fun film, and it was just a back, right? We were fighting because it was all digital, so we didn't see the robots that were hitting us, and I just had to do a ratchet pull, and it was just a fun ride. Little tiny little 10-foot pull back into a pad, and like this, but I hit, and I was like, carnival ride. And I remember the coordinator being like, "Are you okay?" And then just reaming me out. And I don't think I ever worked for him again, to be honest. I mean, that was the first and last time that I worked for him, because I didn't give the thumbs up, especially because I was an upgrade. I was supposed to be what John was talking about, a special skills background performer. And two of the stunt guys that were on there vouched for me, and said, "Oh no, Tyler knows what he's doing." If they needed again, smaller guy, they needed me because I could be pulled back without having to have as much arming in it, which means it was a less dangerous stunt and a smaller stunt adjustment. So they vouched for me, and I did it, and I got my paycheck, and I never worked for that coordinator again. And it was just, this would have made all the difference.
So you were wearing a harness with something with a cable that pulled you back, basically. Yeah. Okay.
And the number one injury in a ratchet pull is actually whiplash. Yeah. Your neck is the soft point. So
so you want to.
Yeah. Wow. So
that
thumbs up is important.
Oh my gosh.
Thumbs up is super important.
Yeah.
Huge.
I have a quick question, because we're talking about swords and that. So I just finished watching Merlin. Very sad today, but anyway, the episode's over. When they're doing those sword fights and such, and I know both of you probably will tell me, I know those swords, like the real swords, are super heavy. Like, do they lighten them up for the films and
let's talk about that, because you are in my wheelhouse now. This is what I do most of the time. Okay, film swords are almost never steel; they're aluminum. If you watch the Highlander TV show or Highlander movies, the Highlander sword that you see on screen, the only time it's a steel sword is when the camera is ridiculously close, and they call that a hero sword. And they literally do all the fight scenes with aluminum swords. And Duncan MacLeod's sword that's in his hand from at distance, right next to the camera, is about 25 of those swords waiting to go through. They're all tempered aluminum, 7075 T6 aluminum, which is interesting, because when you're fighting with aluminum swords, they ring like a bell. And a lot of times they have to take the ring out so they don't ruin the actual sound takes. But they're usually all aluminum. And historically, now this is another part of my job as a person who's an expert on swordplay. Is my job is to know the history of it. Broadswords were not heavy, and people think they were, because modern broadswords are, because they don't know how to make them. They historical broadswords usually had a fuller down the center, which took weight out, and they had a distal taper, which means most of the weight is off of the first half of the blade anyway. The tip to halfway down the blade weighs almost nothing, and all the weight is back in the hands. When you're holding a sword that's properly weighted, it literally feels like a fencing sword almost, even though it is heavier. But the way it's weighted and the way it's balanced, the rotations and all are very simple, very fast. One of the things that I find really interesting in the stunt world, and specifically in swordplay right now, is there's a new revolution that's really started in 1969 when when they started bringing out the historical manuals and taking out the fencing out of the movies and putting them into actual historical style swordplay. See, I'm really fortunate. I got a chance to work with Patty Crane, who was Errol Flynn's stunt double. And so I had a chance to work with some of the old film guys. Well, if you watch any of the old Errol Flynn movies, they got these giant broadswords and they're fencing with them like they're modern fencing swords, right? 69, there's a big shift. And now what's happening in the fight industry, and specifically in the sword part of the fight industry, is all these historical European martial artists are now coming out because there's a new sport out called HEMA, Historical European Martial Arts. And those people have studied these historical manuals to the point of really finding things that we didn't know about broadswords or heavy swords. And every other year, there's a big workshop called the Patty Crane Workshop up in Banff, Canada. And I've taught at that many, many times. And what's great about that workshop is they bring together all these fight directors, but they also bring together all these HEMA guys. And so all the fight directors are learning all the historical styles. So if you watch a fight in a film now compared to, say, back in the 50s, well, they look completely different. And then you come to like a movie like Princess Bride. Now that's a fantasy fight scene, the famous fantasy fight scene, right? But the only reason that script could have been written is because all of those historical fight masters that he mentions in there, I see you attacking me with Capofero, right? That's all because the HEMA guys started bringing out the historical manuals. And those are actually real sword masters that they're talking about in that scene.
And I'm glad you brought it up, John, because out of curiosity, the fight between Inigo Montoya and Wesley, great fight scene or greatest fight scene? Go.
It's a great fight scene. My favorite fight scene of all time is the final fight scene of Rob Roy.
Okay. Yeah, that wins. I'll give that to you.
All right.
Yeah.
The reason I find that the greatest fight scene is because when you look at that fight from a historical perspective and a fight perspective, you've got a transitional small sword against a basket-hilted broadsword, and they both use the perfect style. They use the exact style that weapon would carry, and with the same result. The broadsword guy would have been sliced up, piece by piece. But yeah, that to me is probably the greatest sword fight I've ever seen. There's other movies that get lost in that. There's a real B-rated movie called By the Sword with F. Murray Abraham and Eric Roberts. right.
Really?
And, my favorite part about that, the final fight of that scene, had nothing to do with the fight itself. The fight was good. It was a fencing scene, but the use of sound, and Eric Roberts was basically tapping down the time. He made the sound of a clock as he tapped the sword on the ground, moving it through the fight. So the artistic side of the countdown while he was fighting was spectacular. And so the rest of that movie rocks. But the fight scene, you can find good stuff in anything, really, if you look for it.
So what I'm hearing then, John, is that that is the best use of sound in an F. Murray Abraham movie versus, say, like Amadeus, which, I mean.
Well, I did best Amadeus, best use of sound in a fight scene. Let me say that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll give that to you.
I've got to ask, you're talking about falling on boxes. Now, are we talking about empty boxes that are assembled that have something in them, or are they just flat empty boxes?
No, so like an assembled cardboard box, 2x2x4, or 1x1x2.
Empty.
Like moving boxes.
Yeah, like moving boxes. But you soften the edges a little bit so that they're not super hard.
They are empty. And
yeah, they're empty.
What the boxes do is they break down and release air, and unlike a fall pad, they won't give you any bounce. Most fall pads, when you look at a fall pad, it's multiple layers, and you have a layer of solid, then you have a layer of stripes, basically tubes, and then another layer of solid, and then another layer of tubes, another layer of solid. And so you have these areas where you hit the pad and it blows air out the sides. That's why the pads are all mesh sided and mesh topped as well. So when you hit it, the air goes out, but you still get a level of bounce. With a box fall, it slows you down incrementally. You hit it, go boom, and it slows you down fast, but it does slow you down, as opposed to a fall pad, we'll slow you down and then throw you a little bit, sometimes. And the air pads that he was talking about earlier, the ones that are two 2 stories tall, the air pads, they're designed that when you hit them, the side doors open of those pads and blows all the air straight out the sides. And so it literally is catching you, lowering you down. But it is, when you hit it, it's hard. But then it drops you to the ground.
Yeah, you feel it when you hit it. I mean, you feel, make no mistake, if you're going to be accelerating at the speed of gravity, you are going to feel the thing that you hit. My preference is the boxes because you're never going, like anything over 6 stories, you probably wouldn't do a box fall. That was kind of getting to the limit of what we would do with the boxes. At that point, you would transition into an air pad. Normally, as John was saying, I got really good at the 30-foot falls. That was kind of my wheelhouse. That's where I did. And then you've got layers of boxes, and it's over quick, and it's fun because your whole day is setting up boxes, and then it's 30 seconds of get ready, doom, and then you take down boxes. That's all you do. But yes, Roy, they're empty boxes. The other fun one that I used to love doing, and I bet you John has done this at least once or twice, is styrofoam cups. You get a layer of styrofoam cups, and then you put plywood on top of the styrofoam cups. So you're usually putting one on either corner and then a middle support. So you've got 5, sometimes 6 or 7 styrofoam cups. And then you take a hit, like somebody punches you or you do one of the fallbacks and you hit the floor, and then you spread your momentum out by slapping your hand. You go boom, but you fall onto this little platform like this, and you can take a pretty good header back and very comfortably smack onto that if you do it properly and you spread your weight. And same idea, those cups collapse, but they're an air cushion, and because they crack at the bottom, it lets the air out and it traps the air on the plywood as well. So you get this little air cushion, and it slows your momentum the same way that like an airbag in your vehicle would go off rapid, but enough to stop you from actually getting hurt.
Well, and another technique is what's called a pine board break, where if you're doing a live show, a lot of times you're doing a Western live show and you fall off a 2nd-story building, they'll have what looks like a construction site. I'm using my air quotes here. Construction site below, like they've been working on something. They got 2 boards that are going across between two sawhorses or whatever. And what you don't see is that is sitting on usually on top of a boardwalk or something that looks like it's part of the scene. And that boardwalk is that top board on that boardwalk is actually like a piece of plywood that's painted to look like a boardwalk, and there's cushion underneath that part of the boardwalk as well. And you do a fall off the 2nd story, and you literally break through the pine boards, which starts to slow your momentum before you hit the actual boards. And so you've started the momentum break before you get there, and then you hit the bottom, and it actually picks up the rest of the cushion. So it is the idea of slowing yourself down before the impact. The other thing, what Tyler just said about slapping your hand, that's called a break fall. And when you do a break fall, it literally is designed to take the momentum off of your spine coming down. You want to stay everything off the center. So there's multiple styles of break fall. One of them is the classic Kung Fu break fall, which is both hands slapping. There's the side break fall where you slap to one side. And then there's the rolling break fall where you slap to one side and then roll your body and slap the other side. So you're taking the momentum and throwing it away from your body. If you're working with a break fall like that, what happens is you actually are literally saving your spine from taking full impact. Now, as far as spines are concerned, most people who are doing falls are wearing a gaiter back. And it basically, underneath their clothes, it has this articulated thing that looks like you have a plastic form of spina bifida. Right?
Yeah. Anybody who has done any form of motocross knows exactly what we're talking about. A lot of them call them the armadillo pads, right? And it just looks like, and anytime you see one of the paramilitary movies too, like I think they were wearing them in, what's the alien invasion one?
Oh, there's so many.
I know with the bugs, the alien invasion with the bugs. Starship Troopers. Starship Troopers. They're all wearing them.
A friend of mine is in that movie. I have a friend of mine who's in that movie. He's one of the fight directors on that.
Wow. This has been interesting.
Stunt Education 101. Roy and Lorianne and all of the listeners at Lift Your Story.
But everybody loves the movies, the special effects. It's kind of nice to have a little behind the scenes. you know,
Right.
and most people don't ever know that. They don't see it.
Right. No, no, and that's the beauty of it though. As a stunt, there's the guys who do stunts full time. Kind of have a code. We don't like to talk about who we stunted for because of the fact that it's like saying, hey, look, the wizard's behind the curtain, right? We're all invested in creating a piece of art, and when you start going too much behind the scenes, you end up taking the magic away from the film. That's one of the reasons I hate what's going on right now with these trends where like in all the Marvel films and the Star Wars films, all these people out there who are trying to, learn all the secrets before the movie ever comes out. I think it's terrible because it's like, why are you depriving yourself of the experience? And so I think that you can do after the film's out a while. Yeah, sure. Release some of that information, but I think that the movie needs to stand on its own. The film needs to stand on its own. It's because it is an art form, as is stunt work. Stunt work is a physical art form. And a lot of people don't look at it that way. They just think of it as rough and tumble guys. But the pros who do it full time are amazing at what they do. And I will tell you from experience, they are also some of the most sharing and caring people in the world. That workshop that I talked about earlier, that workshop is filled with fight directors who did Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Highlander. Even one guy even was in Robin Hood Men in Tights, right? So we have all those guys. But they come there, they get their ticket to get there paid for, they get their food and their lodging paid for. They make no more money. And they give up the time between Christmas and New Year's every other year to go give their training away to people who come to that workshop. And it's just because they want to share. And then we bring in the HEMA guys, and then it becomes a huge sharing experience. And you end up with what we call a band of brothers, where you've found this group of guys who you could, the other day I did an interview with Bron McGash, who did the Highlander TV show, because he's just a buddy of mine, and we have great stories from that workshop. So, stuntmen are misunderstood sometimes, and they think it's a huge testosterone laden thing. And there are those who are very testosterone laden, but the majority of them are top skilled professional artists who are doing amazing work.
And I would
Well,
think
and to John's point too, it because it's a brotherhood, the reason you have they're some of the biggest teddy bears I've ever met are the stunt guys. Like, they have big hearts because when something goes wrong, it doesn't just go a little wrong. Right? We're talking about real world consequences if a stunt doesn't go right. Because why does it look dangerous? Because it is dangerous. And you have people who have engineered the danger out. They have taken the safety in mind, and they have done everything they can to minimize the hazards that are present. But it doesn't take away the fact that what they are doing is incredibly dangerous, and not everybody can do it. And subsequently, it's this very, very small, very intimate group of people who have each other's back. Because if I'm working with John, I need to know that John isn't going to do something that's going to kill me. And John needs to know that I'm not going to do something that's going to put him in danger either. And so it's, the band of brothers is exactly right. And John's not wrong in that, it's you're in the trenches. Like, my life is dependent on these people around me. And if I don't do my part in that, the whole thing crumbles. And so you have this really tight-knit community, so that when something does go wrong, like, you hear about it right now, it makes big news, and you have an entire industry that grieves, and people asking, what could I have done better?
And as being a band of brothers, fight directors talk. And so if you got somebody comes in there who is a bozo, who's going to do crazy things or dangerous things, that person will never work with those fight directors again, or any of their friends, because that will go through the industry really quickly.
Yeah.
I was going to say too, I would imagine there's, like in sports, there would be, I would imagine that stunt people would retire sooner at an earlier age than most.
It depends on how hard the stunts are, and how hard you've worked. I'm only 24 years old, and this is what I look like after being doing stunt work.
True, because I'm an actor and I'm 42.
see, stunt work is really hard.
Oh, man, I really want to thank you guys for coming on. This has been a blast, and you know, I've really enjoyed it. So
Oh, me too. It's been great.
thank you for taking the time with us.
Absolutely.
Oh,
And just
anytime, Roy, anytime, Lorianne, you know, we're always game. And John, thank you for agreeing to put up with me and my BS for the last 45 minutes.
Yeah, band of brothers, brother. Band of
That's
brothers.
right.
just before we go, why don't we'll throw John and then Tyler, just let people know where they can find you.
Easy way to find me, corporateactionhero.com. You can find anything you want there, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, blah, blah, blah.
Perfect. Tyler.
At SeanTylerFoley.com, SeanTylerFoley.com, and same, it has the link to all my socials. And if you mistake me for John, I don't know how, but I'll send you over to his.
Okay, perfect.
and vice versa. And vice versa.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a great afternoon.
Okay,
You
guys,
too.
thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Be sure to visit us at lifterstory.com.